The manhwa starts with a man streaming on a website called MeTube. When one of the viewers asks what kind of stream it is, he says he's just going to yap and that lately he's been very stressed. One of the viewers, named Reman, says that they are too. The man continues, saying that life's been difficult for him, and even though his younger siblings probably look to him as a role model, he doesn't know what he can do to make ends meet, especially considering the unemployment crisis. Since he's the oldest, he has to take responsibility for his family and take care of his siblings. When asked about his other family members, we learn that he and his younger siblings live with their grandmother. His rent's due tomorrow, but he'd feel bad if he asked his grandmother for rent money. One of the viewers says that he should use his time to work instead of streaming, and he says that he was discharged 2 months ago and has been looking for work ever since. Even though he needs money right now, that's just how it is, and if they don't want to listen to him talk, then they can just leave. He only started streaming because he was feeling super stressed out. We see some woman lost in thought, and then he gets a 5 million won donation from her, making everybody confused. The man's surprised and asks her what's going on, double-checking with Reman if they missed a zero or something. Then he thinks that maybe it's a big channel farming for clips with the premise of giving a streamer with no views a ton of money and looking for their reaction. He starts to think about it, saying they don't have any money so he can't give this back to them. He has to get his younger sibling an admission gift, and he needs to pay off 6 months of rent. Some people in chat start asking for money, but Reman ignores them and tells him she doesn't plan on taking the money back. He starts to think about it and then tells her to give him some kind of request. As long as it does not pertain to his family, he'll do anything that she wants. Reman then asks him if he will save Eden for her. He wonders if maybe it's a game or something and says, "Sure, it's not a problem," and he'll do it. Then he hears a voice in his head. Reman says that they've now made a contract, and we learn that his name is Kim Se-woo. We see a bright light appearing on his head, and due to him agreeing to save Eden, he was then transported there. We see his hand plunging through somebody's chest as he immediately latches onto something, pulling it out. He lets out a sigh and says, "Goodbye, Lucifer." As we see what he has just defeated was Lucifer, and he pulled his heart out. Lucifer's body then vanishes. Se-woo wipes some of the blood away, saying it's all because he took one wrong donation that his life was flipped upside down. The crazy one was him, and he says that Reman scammed him with a donation and then summoned him here. He's had to fight for his life every single day. It started out with a mace in his hands. Reman said that she would offer him her strength and that all he had to do was defeat the enemies in front of him. It's a very cliché situation. He tries to tell her that she's picked the wrong guy and she should have picked someone more fit, but she tells him that he's the only one that she can rely on to save Eden. If he does save it, she'll send him back to Earth. He wonders if that's really all he has to do. He tells her that she better make sure that his siblings and grandmother live good lives and get him a job when he gets back to Earth. If she keeps that promise, he'll save Eden, no worries. Like that, he ended up making a contract with the goddess of another world by the name of Reman. She said they're the enemy, so what could he do except fight? He made sure to give it his best, and in the end, since he was summoned by a goddess, he ended up becoming a pope for her. But that wasn't all. As Eden was crawling with demons and enemies, so he eradicated each and every one of them, along with the 7 demon kings, as that was the only way for him to save Eden. It took him a grand total of 10 years. He wonders if his siblings are doing well, and if he'll be able to live a normal life when he returns to Earth. We hear Reman's voice asking Se-woo if he's okay, and he says yes, asking what's wrong. She says that she's sorry and thanks him, as their contract is now over. He smiles, saying that since she told him he'd have a job when he goes back, he'll believe her and leave. He thought that the other world was draining and godforsaken, but it's not as if it was all bad. She then tells him to look around at just the world he saved, and he says that he's going to miss it a little bit. He looks over, making a bittersweet face, and then waves goodbye to Reman, saying the next time she scams someone, she needs to be more shameless about it instead of being sorry. He tells her bye. She thanks him, and as he's teleported back to Earth, she says that she truly is sorry. Se-woo is just happy that he's actually going back to his peaceful Earth. As he gets closer and closer, he says that he's missed Korea so much. But as he starts to descend in, he sees what should be his peaceful city of Seoul is littered with flying wyverns. Se-woo kind of stares at it in disbelief as he watches an all-out war take place between humanity and these monsters. Some Korean soldiers are even shit-talking in the chain of command, asking if they're just meant to be eaten. Se-woo says he's missed hearing Korean so much, yet the very first thing he hears is vanity. But now he is truly back after 10 years, yet he wonders what's going on with Earth. He laughs, saying that Earth is definitely done for, or maybe he's still dreaming on Eden and that he just missed Korea so much that he ended up falling victim to the Queen of Nightmares. He smiles, saying, "Nah, because there's no way that could happen." And Reman cuts him off, saying that he took her head with his own 2 hands. She calls him her Pope, then tells him he was incredibly sexy when he did it as well, just straight flirting with him. Se-woo turns to see her and seems a little annoyed. She notices, saying that he doesn't look happy, and it seems that sending him back was pointless. He says he thought their contract ended with his return. She says that she's sad, as she is still a goddess who he served for a time, and at least he should show some love and respect. It's all thanks to me that you returned here safe and sound. He snaps back, if it wasn't for you dragging me to that damn world in the first place, then I wouldn't have had to struggle so much to begin with. She then thinks about it, saying, if you had stayed on Earth, you would have died. He's surprised, asking how she could possibly know that. She says, despite how you see me, I am still a god in the end. A status window appears. A god from another dimension is interfering with the principles of Earth. A strong principle is being forced to comply. Due to an error, your time will stop for 5 minutes. Sei Wu asks what she's doing. Riemann says, 5 minutes seems rather short, but it must be because it's the dimension in which the main event is occurring. It seems this is the limit of causality despite my interfering as a god. She then speaks frankly, asking, would you like to make another contract with me? He asks if she means another slave contract. She says, this time, if you don't agree with it, I won't try to force you. And you'll definitely want this contract because if you form one with me, you'll be able to keep all the power you used in the other world. Of course, I don't have any believers here, so there would be some conditions. He says, I thought those were powers I could just naturally keep using. She replies, moving across dimensions isn't so simple. It's something that interferes with causality, so losing your powers was a given. He starts to get annoyed, saying, you're driving me nuts. She sighs, I knew forming another contract would be a bit much. You endured so much in Eden, after all. But then he asks, what are you doing? She's a little confused. He tells her, hurry up and continue with the contract. I don't want to lose my powers. She's still clueless, but he just doesn't want to be some washed-up protagonist. A status window appears. The SCTA set contract is complete. As this is a contract for another dimension, the causality will be investigated and judged. Please wait. Counts down. The investigation finds no problems, so in 1 minute, the flow of time will resume. She calls out to him, unfortunately, I don't have any infrastructure in this world, so I can't be with you for long. I'm sure you have many things you'd like to ask me, but before that, there's something you absolutely must do. Divine power is a strength founded on belief in another being. If there is no faith, it will cease to be. As such, to maintain your strength, you must convert people on Earth to believe in me. It's surely simple for you. You were the Pope of the Riemann Order, after all. He starts sweating nervously, thinking about it. She smiles. We'll see each other again in no time. Try not to cry because you miss me. She leaves, calling him my Pope one last time. He yells, wait, but the flow of time resumes. A quest has been given to him. Found the order. It's pretty much what they just talked about, her lack of believers. Time limit, 90 days. Failure penalty. Everything you possess will be reset. He's still taken aback. They're just going to see me like a cult leader. One of the wyverns screeches, flying toward him. It opens its mouth and he turns, watching as it gets closer. The air around Sei Wu grows serious as he glares at the wyvern. Lightning forms in his hand. He stretches out, grabbing the wyvern's wing, and rips it off. The creature screams. The soldiers stare in shock. Is this real? When Sei Wu turns, blood on his face, he realizes this is his chance to recruit them. The 3 dudes are still frozen in surprise. He asks, would you like to hear about our Lord and Savior, Riemann? They look at him like he's crazy. Sei Wu realizes, maybe he is completely screwed. They say, no, we're sorry. Then he sees the quest details. 10,000 followers required. Maybe I am cooked. He brushes it off, ripping the wings off more wyverns, deciding to focus on the monsters at hand. He locks in. A massive lightning bolt strikes down another wyvern. The soldiers sit there, blank-faced. One mutters, we're not picking up any magic on the detector. Is a returner meant to be this strong? Another says, typically, a returner's rank is determined by magic levels, but no way a regular rank returner drops wyverns like this. This is at least disaster rank.
Sei Wu stand undet bei Vivern Corpses.
The man radios in accordance with the Emergency Response Manual of the Special Investigation Bureau, I request the immediate summoning of the entire bureau. The response crackles. Is the situation that bad? It's not about the gate. We've confirmed an immensely strong returner who isn't detected by magic scanners. He's outside our current standards. The man sighs, I'll talk to him first. Just send support. And, just in case, it was nice working with you all. We learn his name, Dongik. Sei Wu looks around. Was that really it? He sighs, I'm pretty much just a human cheat at this point. But where did all the soldiers go? Dongik runs over. Sei Wu eyes him. Is this guy the boss? He looks like a pain in the ass. Maybe I wasn't supposed to catch the wyverns, but Dongik suddenly beams. Nice to meet you. I'd love to help you get settled in. Sei Wu is confused. And he's not the only one. Scene jump. Apartment complex, Gangwon Province, Gangneung City. Sei Wu stands before the door, recapping his conversation with Dongshik. He looked into my family. Both my brother and sister are safe, living in Gangwon province. My grandmother is still traveling in the US. Dongshik had ranted, at our Department of Ability Management, we'll support you at all costs. Any questions, just contact me. Seiwu thinks, they're very welcoming, but everything seems fine. I expected my siblings to figure things out, no matter how much the world changed. And my grandmother's always been eccentric. He mutters, it's been 10 years. My younger brother, Inwook, should be around 27 now. But Donggit corrected him earlier. Surprise, it's only been 5 years on Earth. If you spent 10 years in Eden, you're not 32. You're 27. Seiwu muses, I don't know how much Earth has changed in 5 years, but returners seem treated well. It's great to hear they're all okay. Did Riemann have something to do with that? His chest tightens. My family, I missed them even in Eden. I've longed for this. I didn't even have a photo of them. But why is he so nervous? This is the most nervous I've ever been. He rings the doorbell. Silence. He rings again. Finally, Inwook's voice. Who's there? Seiwu clears his throat. It's been a while. How've you been? He's super excited. Inwook replies flatly, we're not religious. Huh. You're really going door to door to convert people in this day and age? Seiwu stammers. That's not. Inwook cuts in. Change your clothes before you deny it. I'll call the police if you don't leave. He clicks his tongue. I was having a good nap. Crazy bastard. Open the damn door. Inwook swings the door open, bat in hand. You want to get your ass kicked, you crazy cultist? Then he freezes. You gonna hit me with that thing? Inwook's jaw drops. Not exactly the emotional reunion I expected. Cut to, inside the apartment. Inwook makes him food. Seiwu devours a bowl of ramen. 3 more. With his mouth full, he says, even if the reunion wasn't emotional, the food sure hit. First time in 10 years eating Korean food. Inwook mutters, I can't believe it.
Seiwu pauses.
What? Inwook hesitates, then drops the bombshell. He thought his brother died, yet now he's sitting here and is eating all of their ramen while dressed like a cultist. Seiwu says he shouldn't use that word on his brother, asking if he's mad that he ate without him, saying he should eat too. Inwook says that's not it. Turns out that Seiwu told him everything, and Inwook starts to ask him about Eden in the last 10 years. Seiwu says that it surely doesn't really matter since he's back safe and sound, asking what he's so curious about. Inwook sits there for a second, thinking about it, and tells him everything. He wonders what he did in the other world all this time and how he came back, as that's the most important thing, wondering why he hasn't mentioned it. Seiwu goes to tell him that it's about what he did there, but then he thinks about how everything he's accomplished was just him having a brutal crusade and hesitates for a second, telling his brother, never mind. Inwook says that there are 2 things people hate. The first is when someone doesn't finish their sentence. And before he can finish the other one, Seiwu just tells him that it's not a fun story. Most stories like this aren't. The world, taken over by demons, was so horrendous that the amount of blood he got on his hands trying to save it was just way too much. He busted his ass fighting for Eden, and now he's finally back on Earth. He looks over at his quest notification and how it still hasn't moved at all. He starts to get a bit annoyed, saying he spent so long growing his holy power to this level, yet he's probably just gonna lose it all. Inwook tells him to go ahead and finish his food, as he's gonna go get some work done since he is awake. As he sits down on his computer, Seiwu asks what he's doing. Inwook says that he works as a MeTube editor and he's been making money doing this since he disappeared, and he has a lot of work as he's editing for a pretty big MeTuber. Seiwu says that's admirable, and he always seemed interested in video editing, so he's glad he ended up doing it. He tells his brother that the video looks realistic, and his brother says he probably didn't know this, but it is all real. There are people called players, and they go and take care of gates, monsters, and dungeons just like out of novels. Seiwu asks if they use system windows as scales too, and Inwook says yeah, saying that since he used to read so many web novels, he's sure it made sense to him very quickly. But Seiwu seems to start really thinking about it while his brother yaps. He thinks about how MeTube might be his way out, and he tells his brother, this is it, which startles him. If he makes MeTube content, he'll be able to expose the Riemann order and get subscribers and followers. Then, the status window tells him that his religious order trait has been activated. Seiwu turns, wondering what it means, only to see that it explains pretty much everything about the order, the objective and how he can use divine points in the store, and the items will change based on the amount of followers. The only option at the moment is called charity, which means all followers of the order will have extra experience earned and an extremely small chance of awakening the target if they aren't the player, which costs 1,000 points. And then his next one is at 10,000 followers. Seiwu wonders if this popped up because he thought of starting a channel, saying pretty much everything is locked still, so there's nothing useful, but charity might come in handy. He wants to ask if he's going to start a channel, saying he doesn't want to be the one to tell him, but it probably won't work out because he needs to be approved by the government if he wants to create player-type content, and not everybody can do it. But it can't be helped as he doesn't know anything since he just got back, so he'll provide for him, as he earns quite well. Se-woo says he appreciates the gesture, but he's full of it, and he's the one who doesn't know anything, asking how he would have found him after being gone for 5 years, and it was none other than thanks to the government's help that he was brought here. When Dong-sik asked what he was going to do, Se-woo says that he wants to expand his order. Dong-sik says that Korea is a free country, and freedom of religion comes with it, but he hopes the beliefs don't go against any conventional norms. Se-woo says that she's a merciful king, and if he just hears him out, he'll understand. Dong-sik says, sure, and then after a bit of talking, Dong-sik pulls out the classic, just smile and wave, not actually wanting to be converted. Then he tells him that he's a VIP of the Department of Ability Management, and if he needs something done, to contact him, and welcomes him back to Earth as he is the first irregular of South Korea. And his brother starts pogging out of his gourd while Se-woo seems all proud. In-wook says that he can't believe that the same guy who just stuffed his face with 10 packs of ramen could be an irregular. Se-woo jokes, saying that he'll kill him, and In-wook wonders why he didn't just say that first. Se-woo says he can't tell him that he'll lose his power if he doesn't get 10,000 followers. In-wook says that since he was a pope, he's probably going to start the MeTube to get followers for the order, asking if he's right, and if that's the case, it's not going to be easy when he's wearing clothes like that, as it's not like anyone here on Earth knows who his king is. Se-woo tells him to hear him out, asking, what if I have the ability that can awaken regular people? In-wook says if he has that ability, he'll be recruited by pretty much every country, but there's no way such an ability exists as he would make a fortune, and he would immediately sign up to it as well. Se-woo doesn't even try to fight any of his arguments and only says that his king is one of mercy and charity, and he shows him his status window. In-wook wonders if that means he can become a player if he only believes, but Se-woo says that he can't do it yet, but if he gets more followers, he thinks he can buy the trait, and that will make becoming a player not up to a random chance but something that everybody can work towards, asking his brother what he thinks, and we see the count of millions of followers that he's got. As In-wook says, he's already ready for it, as he's ready to spread the good word of their Lord and Savior, Seiwa, who's surprised that he's already so into it, and In-wook just screams, telling Ree-man that he believes in her. Seiwa says that he thought In-wook was an atheist, and In-wook just tells him to take him in already. Seiwa says to become a believer despite having never seen Ree-man. He would expect no less from his younger brother. For now, his plan is to have a sort of online service using MeTube, but he still hasn't figured out the details. In-wook tells him not to worry, as he has a plan. The door then starts to beep, and Seiwa wonders who it is. In-wook tells him that it's finally time and that he has to take responsibility. Seiwa is still confused until the door opens, and we see a little girl. Seiwa immediately recognizes it as San, his little sister, who is really surprised to see her older brother. So quickly runs over, saying that she's gotten pretty and surely she missed him. Her voice starts to break as she says that she thought he was dead. And right as she's on the verge of tears, he tells her that he was wrong and he's sorry for leaving without saying anything. But she immediately starts bawling her eyes out, and he tries to get her to stop, but she just gets even louder. So just asks his brother to come help him, but In-wook says that this is karma. The next day, we see Cyan making a pinky promise to So that they're gonna go eat some food later. She says that she knows a really good place, so he has to eat there with her and she'll be back, and he waves her off to school. After that warlike day ended yesterday, they went around to all the neighbors and apologized for the noise, and peace finally returned. Suo heads downtown and he's telling somebody that he talked with his brother, but for Awaken to properly be active on MeTube, they need state authorization. We see a man in front of Dongik, saying that they'll support him as much as he needs, and he's sorry for coming to find him so late, and he introduces himself as Iho. He is the minister for the Department of Ability Management. Seiwa says he learned a bit about him before he came over here, and he didn't expect to get straight to the head honcho, but he guesses that's the power he is, which was similar on Eden. Since the Reen Order is the first religious order in Eden, leaders of all species came together before. Sanho asks if he's going to be going on missionary activities, and Seiwa says yes. Sanho awkwardly says that's good, and says it's okay for him to reveal that he's a returner on MeTube, but he needs to also reveal that he's an irregular through a press conference sponsored by their department. Then we see a video of the day he returned, killing the wyverns. Seiwa asks if this has been released already, and Sinho says they put an embargo on it, but they couldn't block it. So says that he's sure his brother, who is well versed in MeTube, has probably seen it already. Sanho says he might feel bad about it, but they'll assign some agents around him for a while, and he promises that on his name, there won't be any harm dealt to him. Since an irregular rank has never appeared in South Korea, their management is still lacking, so hopefully, he can forgive them. Seiwa says if you think about it, it makes sense, and there's not really any problems with this, so he'll just go with it. Then it jumps back to him at the house, and his grandma is calling him rotten, saying if he returned, he should have contacted her immediately. He apologizes to her, and she says it's fine since he has come back. She's gonna finish her travels, and he should take care of C and Nwuk. He tells her to make sure to stay careful, and then the phone hangs up, and he says that Granny's speaking as if she obviously knew he'd come back. Inwook says that she actually mentioned having dreams of him, and according to her dreams, she witnessed him sometimes steadily walking across an endless horizon and fighting winged monsters. And he wonders if that's what gave her such beliefs. SEI Wu says it sure is fascinating, and Inwook says he also thought that his brother was dead, but the fact that he's here doesn't feel real yet. SEI Wu starts to just feel happy that he's being welcomed, and he explains that they all had a great relationship in the past, even more so during his senior year of high school after their parents died in a car accident. It would have been hard if their grandma didn't raise them. He says Inwook must have waited for him for quite a while, and in the end, he gave up thinking he was dead. Inwook then tells him that they made his funeral a woodland burial, and there's a tree with his name on it, and they should have done a 5-year contract, but they ended up deciding to do a 10-year one. Cyan made it really pretty, and So says they should just go get a refund. So says his brother sure can lock in as he starts editing the video, and then he says that he should tell him about the thing he mentioned last time. His brother says he has a plan, showing him a MeTube channel called Player K with 5.4 million subs, and he's going to be able to do that. SEI Wu then starts looking at the video, analyzing it, saying that the reason he has so many subs is because he's handsome. Inwook says that he has a great personality too, and he's had no controversy so far, and he pays him consistently. His brother says right now actually just having the channel is good because it usually takes around 2 weeks, and as his brother is aware, the easiest way for those who are starting channels to get attention is through the help of bigger channels and corporations. There's content that he can participate in that Player K is doing as well. It is the Newbie Military Academy, pretty much just guides and walkthroughs like if you were looking at KH Academy. When we learn Player K's name is actually Minsu, and he teaches newbies a lot. There happens to be an opening because one of them got hurt while catching a monster, and when Inwook talked to him about it, Minsu said he'd like to do an interview. SEI Wu asks his brother if he really thinks he's a newbie, saying from what he sees Minsu is the one with less experience. His brother laughs, saying that's exactly the plan, and he says that they're going to go with the main character hiding his power, and that they're going to participate with this kind of concept, asking if he thinks it's a good plan for their channel. He hasn't told Minsu the details yet, but if he does, he will definitely think of it positively, and they should just do the interview and proceed to the rest after, as Minsu likes this type of content. His brother wonders what kind of monster he's awoken. Then it jumps to them driving the car, and SEI Wu says the filming site is far. His brother tells him that they're almost there and it'll be another 30 minutes. They finally arrive at the Megan Mountain Range. They get out of their car and look around, and SEI Wu says that this atmosphere is hella creepy, asking if this is the right place. Inwook says yes, but the atmosphere is definitely a bit odd, and that Minsu isn't answering his phone. SEI Wu says since the signal isn't good, it's quite strange as well, and he didn't know there was a place like this left in South Korea. He can tell that something's quite not right as there's traces of stuff in the air. He tells his brother that they should go back as they're going to suspend the project. His brother tells him to wait, and he's probably just busy filming, which is why he can't pick up the phone, and they should just go find him first. But SEI Wu says no, after his endless fights in Eden, and his extremely developed senses from receiving Reman's blessing. This is demonic energy that only monsters and demons can give off. SEI Wu asks his brother if Minsu is actually a good person, and if there's any rumors about him sacrificing people and worshipping demons. Inwook says no, as he's a really famous MeTuber. SEI Wu says that if he was a normal returner they would have already died, asking him if he understands what that means. Inwook says there's no way as Minsu is a good person. SEI Wu says my ass, and he just trusts people too easily, and if he keeps doing that he's going to be stabbed in the back. Inwook asks why he's so angry, saying he sounds like he's experienced it firsthand. All SEI Wu can think of is Reman, but says nothing like that has ever happened. Inwook says 3 years ago, Granny was in the hospital and Minsu came by and paid for all the hospital bills without saying a single word to him, and he had no money back then because he had just paid for the rent. SEI Wu says, on second thought, bro sounds like a hero, and he should have just led with that. Suspecting someone who would help another in financial risk is indeed no easy task. If it was 3 years ago, it means that it took place when he wasn't around, and he might actually be a great person. SEI Wu tells Inwook that he needs to return home in the taxi he took here, as this place is too dangerous. When Inwook asks about him, So says that since his plan isn't going to work, he needs a workaround. He taps his shoulder as his clothes start to magically swap to his priest outfit, and he says since online propagation won't work, he'll have to try to do it offline, as he strikes a pose. Inwook is confused, asking if he's some kind of magical girl, and begs that he let him record him transforming next time. But SEI Wu kicks him into the van, telling him to leave. Inwook says he needs to use it for their MeTube intro. SEI Wu says his brother used to not be this stubborn, but Inwook guesses it's his fault in the end. After a bit of walking through the forest, Suo stumbles across something, and a status window appears, You have entered the Abyss area. A related quest has been created. It's a quest called Salvation. It will give him 50 divine points if he frees those who are facing torment in these lands. More demonic energy begins to flow through the air, and So says at first glance it looks like an ordinary mountain, but with this much energy around, there's got to be an abyss dungeon of sorts inside. He continues walking, and it's eerily quiet. He then stops as he's now sensed something nearby, and he turns, telling people that the weather sure is nice today, as we see cameraman. SEI Wu asks what they are all doing. They say they didn't mean to scare him and were just filming for their channel. One of them asks what he's doing here, saying it's dangerous to be here with a dungeon nearby. SEI Wu says that he's here to meet Su, and his little brother must have contacted them, asking if they got anything. The guy says that he must be the returner he's heard about, and Su did mention something about an interview, and if he just gave them a call, they would have met him at the entrance. But So says his phone isn't working. The cameraman says that he can't believe there's a place in Korea with no network, though it's a relief to have met them like this, and they can guide him to Su. After a bit of walking, one of the cameramen starts to yap his ear off, saying they've been planning a very huge event. He's been helping Su for a while, and so is Inwook, and he asks if the priest's outfit is part of Suo's concept. But Suo says it's not. The dude says that it's unique and memorable, and it's a great tactic. SEI Wu says this guy talks way too much. The dude says it's his first time meeting a returner and laughs. Then SEI Wu looks around, saying he has a question, asking if the three in the back are usually this quiet. The cameraman asks what he's talking about, saying they've been talking the entire time, as bro's eyes go absolutely crazy. Suo thinks about it and then asks the guy's name. He introduces himself as Su Samong. SEI Wu tells Samong to listen to what he has to say as he taps his hands. His gloves then begin to appear on him, just like his outfit earlier, and he says he's a very lucky person, as some people possess innate resistance to demonic energy even though they aren't awakened. He needs to make sure he thanks his parents for this. Samong asks what he means, and Seiwu says that if he goes home alive today, he needs to make sure to give his parents a hug. Lightning then begins to appear at the tip of his finger, and it shoots out directly forward, blowing the heads off one of the cameramen behind Samong. His face gets painted by some type of residue. Samong starts to scream as we see the three dudes are actually just leaking demonic essence rather than blood and standing there without their heads. Song asks what the hell this is, and Seiwu says it seems like he's putting on quite a show from the start, and the rest must be deeper inside, but it should be safe here. He tells Samong to wait for him to come back. Samong asks who he is and what he's here for, saying he doesn't know what's going on anymore. Seiwu says there's only one way to explain it. He's just here to spread the word of his king, as he starts to put on his typical priest smile. All Samong can do is be blinded by the light. Seiwu then enters the dungeon, and it's one called the Necromancer's Laboratory, which is in the process of abyssification. The dungeon name then changes from the Necromancer's Laboratory to the Bridgehead of Pride, and if he does not defeat the boss of the dungeon, all land within a 5 kilometers radius will be corrupted by the abyss. Seiwu says he doesn't know much about the abyssification, but the demonic energy has become much more intense. He can also sense the magic of other players, and there must be quite a few left trying to resist the demonic energy. As he walks forward, he says it should be around here, and he sees lots of men slumped up against a box. It seems there are 2 of them, and he says that they are still alive but they are completely faceless. This clears up the identity of the creature he destroyed before entering the dungeon. They are actually mimics. They are monsters that knock out people and then transform into them and impersonate them. The reason they knock them out is because they can't transform into dead people. And since mimics are a low-level monster, they don't have vocal cords and are unable to speak, so they can't exist by themselves, which means the boss must be the doppelganger. Seiwu knows exactly what it is. The status window then says he has confirmed the keyword doppelganger, and it reveals that he is correct about it. Seiwu says he expected as much, and monsters like mimics which can turn into others are a pain to deal with even with prior knowledge, and it would be a living hell if they were to turn into their allies. He then hears somebody screaming and immediately wonders if it is a survivor or a doppelganger, but runs in saying it doesn't matter right now anyway. Seiwu sees a light and wonders if there are monsters crowded around whoever is screaming. He dashes through the blinding lights only to see that there are lights set up on a tripod, and someone yells, "Cut!" telling Seiwu he can't just pop out of nowhere, saying he was going so well a minute ago. Seiwu is surprised that there are survivors, and that there are actually quite a few of them. The people say that now they have to shoot it all over again, asking if they just let him through as they rented this dungeon out to shoot, so he can't just come in here like this. Seiwu says he heard screams and acted on instinct, and he's sorry for that. The people outside let him in when he said he was here to meet Minsu. The guy asks what he's here to see him for, and Seiwu says that he made plans to meet him for a face-to-face interview. The dude says that he must be the returner, and he's wondering why he was dressed so oddly. Seiwu holds back his anger and says yes, that's him, as he can't believe they're making fun of his drip. The guy then asks his coworkers if the walkie-talkies are still broken, and he tells one of the people nearby to guide him to Minsu. The person asks if they're okay with being more casual to Se-woo, and he says sure as they guide him away. Se-woo looks around, saying fortunately a few people haven't been afflicted by the demonic energy yet, but there still are quite a few who are, as he sees another faceless girl. He says that the doppelganger's group illusion is like a theater where the doppelganger is the protagonist and is currently in progress. Even the players who haven't been afflicted by the energy are still under its effects, and if it's using group illusion, it means that it's gained a lot of power. That's probably why the demonic energy is seeping out outside of the dungeon. The guide then tells him that he doesn't need to be so nervous and that the whole place is under control. He asks what they mean, and they say they have the boss in captivity. Se-woo asks what he means by captured it, asking what the hell he just heard. The dude says this is usually how they do shootings in dungeons because the dungeon will vanish if they kill the boss, so they can't have that, but they also can't have it roaming freely, so they weaken the boss and tie it down. Then the other monsters in the dungeon are weakened too, making it easy to film. He says that basically means they just push it to the brink of death and keep it alive. The dude says yes, saying it's efficient, and Se-woo says maybe Satan should have learned from humans. He says if they've been doing it all this time and it's been fine, they probably just got unlucky with the doppelganger, but it's probably just karma. Inwook seems to have faith in MSU, but it doesn't seem as if MSU knows what safety is, and this probably won't work out. They head to the boss room and the dude tells him that MSU should be waiting for him inside, and he'll come back to film together later. SEI-woo thanks him and watches him leave. Then he opens the door as we see MSU talking to some people. One of the people MSU is talking to deadpan stares behind him, and MSU turns wondering what he's looking at only to see SEI-woo standing there asking what brings him here. SEI-woo introduces himself as Inwook's brother and MSU says he's heard a lot about him and was wondering when he'd get here, mentioning he's much more handsome than described. SEI-woo notes that this dude is straight glowing and his voice is nice too. MSU says it must have been hard for him coming all the way here and tells him to take a seat. SEI-woo goes over on the side and sits down. MSU asks if they can edit the video like he'd asked while he goes to talk to SEI-woo for a bit. So remarks that MeTube creators sure are busy. MSU laughs saying he should have something better to offer since he came a long way, but all he has is instant coffee, which SEI-woo says he likes. MSU asks if the journey was okay, and SEI-woo says there was some staff that brought him here and there were actually a lot of people on the way. MSU explains that realism is important for the project, so they bring in all the editors who can help. SEI-woo asks if everybody here is a player, and MSU confirms they are, but says they're usually just a little too unskilled to work as hunters since not all players are the same, though he does pay them very nicely. SEI-woo wonders if maybe Inwook wants to be a player because of MSU. MSU says he heard Inwook would be coming too and asks if he's waiting outside, but SEI-woo says he's not feeling well, so he just came alone. MSU asks if he got sick again, mentioning he got sick often in the past when editing his videos, and says he'll send him some treats. SEI-woo thinks that the most efficient way to strike up a conversation with someone you don't know is to talk about what you have in common, and he can tell that this guy is really sociable, wondering if he was always like this or if he changed after becoming an influencer. SEI-woo starts to laugh and calls him an interesting guy. When MSU asks what he means, SEI-woo says he met his brother as he's always been very weak, which makes MSU laugh and say he thought so. MSU comments that So is pretty handsome and since he's a player, but SEI-woo cuts him off saying he has a question, admitting he's a bit of a worrywart and asking if it's safe to film here. MSU says he understands it's his first time in a dungeon and tells him to take a look at this as he moves a curtain over. SEI-woo is surprised to see what he's staring at is none other than the boss monster all chained up. MSU says above all else that he prioritizes safety, and while there are quite a few dangerous scenes on MeTube, they can ensure safety comes first before anything is filmed. So mentions he heard that one person had to drop out of the project though, and MSU explains they weren't hurt on the scene as they already had a disease and it just got worse, suggesting if he's worried about safety he can just watch for a bit and decide if he wants to join. So looks at him suspiciously and then chugs his instant coffee saying okay. MSU reassures him that he has no intention of pressuring him into this, but SEI-woo says they should just do it and they should shake hands since they're colleagues. MSU then welcomes him to the team, only for SEI-woo to start electrocuting him. MSU demands to know what he thinks he's doing and starts screaming as his entire form starts to shift. A status window appears saying the information of the passive skill Sacred Fire has been synchronized. SEI-woo smiles deviously and says it's not fun if they are the only ones deceiving them and a play should have some plot twists as MSU's hands start to get charred. SEI-woo asks him if he agrees, but all MSU can do is scream and fall to his knees in complete pain. SEI-woo then goes to his ear and whispers asking him how his acting was as he puts his hand on his shoulder, revealing that it was a doppelganger. We then hear MSU's thoughts as he says when he realized the dungeon boss was a doppelganger he thought he and all of his crew would die here. We see it grabbing him by the throat as he explains that the monster neutralized him and took his appearance, and he thought the outcome was already over. It made him look like the doppelganger instead, and they quickly chained him up. He couldn't speak to them as they were beating him to the brink of death. He calls out to his coworkers, only for them not to hear him, leaving him with nothing to do. We see Min-soo even crying while in the doppelganger form as the doppelganger moves the curtain aside and starts to walk towards him. As we see 3 of his comrades on the ground with mimics taking their bodies, Min-soo asks the doppelganger how it feels to have the people he trusted look at him as if he's a monster. Min-soo just begs that it kills him and ends his suffering as the doppelganger starts to use his coworkers as leverage against him. Min-soo cries and begs for anybody to help him. On cue, when he was begging for them to be saved, that was when Se-woo smited down the doppelganger boss, pretty much deleting it. When Min-soo looked back up, he saw Se-woo looking down on him, and he wonders if maybe this was a dream as the doppelganger is being burned alive by the blue flame. Min-soo feels the flame's warmth and says that for this to be a dream, it feels like a mother's embrace. Se-woo calls out to him, and Min-soo is surprised that he can see him. Se-woo says he can hear him too, and Min-soo asks how because even his team didn't recognize him. Se-woo tells him that he has great eyesight and then introduces himself as In-wook's brother. Min-soo says he likes that guy, he's really hardworking, young too, and does everything he can to provide for his younger sister and granny. He heard that his brother disappeared 5 years ago. Se-woo looks off to the side regretfully and tells Min-soo that he didn't give him a choice, as he was the one who suffered the most in this dungeon. Se-woo says there are 2 options for him to choose from. Min-soo says the moment he realized the monster took his identity, he thought this would be the end for him, and he begs for his life to be over. Se-woo wonders what the hell he's talking about. Then Min-soo continues saying that he'd rather die at the hands of a human. But Se-woo says that's not what he means, and his imagination seems to have gotten the better of him. He needs to actually listen to what he has to say. The first option is to crack this dude's head open. The second is to burn him with sacred fire again, and just to let him know the second option is far more painful. Min-soo doesn't hesitate, saying that he needs to make him suffer until his dying breath. Se-woo says of course as nothing beats burning demons, and he'll roast him up nicely as he sets him back ablaze, only for him to start screaming like a maniac. The chains around Min-soo then start to break off as his body starts to be enveloped by the sacred fire. A status window tells him he has received salvation through the fire, he has completed the hidden objective redemption, and another worldly king has responded to his tears. We see an image of Riemann descending toward him. She opens her eyes and tells him not to blame himself as it's not his fault. As his body starts to shift back to human, he cries saying he's never once believed in miracles, but other than a miracle, what else could he call this? On Se-woo's end, the status windows tell him that the dungeon will close in an hour. He has received 50 divine points for clearing it, and an additional 100 for completing the quest, Redemption. Se-woo says he doesn't feel great about this, wondering if things would have been different if he arrived a little earlier. He says it actually might have been worse. It doesn't seem like anyone got badly hurt and they'll all wake up soon. On the ground, he hears Min-soo calling out to the king, and Se-woo says, "That's that." He says he didn't expect to see Riemann so soon. The last time they said goodbye he thought he wouldn't see her for years or something. She tells him that's because he's been working so hard, and she did say she'd see him soon. He says he didn't expect that to be in 3 days though. She gets super close to him, saying that she's glad to see his face again, and he sighs asking her how long she can stay this time. She says about 5 minutes, and it's only possible because this place is strange as there is a dimensional gap here. She felt his presence so she came immediately. He asks if this has anything to do with it being an abyss dungeon, and he'll look into it later. She says that he acts like he doesn't like seeing her, but she can tell that he does, and he's always like this. He tells her to stop yapping since she doesn't like healing people directly. He asks how she managed to heal Min-soo when she can't even appear in person now. He's also passed out due to her divinity. She says that she thought he was a good person, as a person who blames himself for his teammates getting hurt cannot be bad, and besides, he is the one who will be helping Se-woo get settled in the new world. She saw him working so hard to get supporters for her in an unknown land, so she asked to help the people who will aid him. She asks him in a soft tone what he thinks about his home after all this time. He says everything about it is so odd. She tells him that she didn't mention it before because of the limited time but reminds him when they made the contract after his return. She explains that the causality which governs all dimensions applies to gods as well, and due to the causality, her coming from another world cannot influence things on Earth. He says, "If you can't influence things on Earth, how am I using your power then? And you also just managed to heal M-soo." She says that's why he needs to be careful as causality is like a scale. They're permitted to the contract between the two of them, which means that there is bound to be something heavy on the other side of the scale. He asks her what it is, but she remains silent. He says that must mean she can't say it, and he starts to think about it, saying there's something he doesn't know that supersedes her. He sighs, saying that he can't even rest for a moment, and he guesses it's weird that monsters are appearing on Earth. But he says that it's fine with him. She is surprised he isn't angry and asks why he would be angry here in the first place. "It's not your fault that Earth is like this. There's no reason for me to get mad. I'm not that petty." She's touched and starts to smile, and then laughs. He asks her what she thinks is funny, and she says nothing as she heads to leave. He says maybe he did get attached to her because he doesn't want her to leave quite yet, and tells her that next time, they should take a picture together. Maybe followers will just walk in after seeing a picture of you. She says that she'll take that as a compliment on her appearance and thanks him. She wants to see him somewhere brighter than this next time, saying surely he knows what he needs to do. But he says he low-key doesn't. She says that he needs to build a temple for her to allow herself to materialize easily, of course, as well as gain more followers. As she fades out into a blue light, she says that she'll see him next time. MSU then jolts awake, and SEI Wu asks how he's feeling. MSU asks about the goddess, and SEI Wu says that she actually just left. Bro is in love, and asks SEI Wu if he can meet her again. SEI Wu says that he was about to ask him if he wanted to learn about their Lord and Savior. Riemann jumps to sometime later. SEI Wu is in the car, and he's looking at how he is 4 out of 10,000 believers now while his brother edits. He explains to us that the doppelganger incident that happened 2 days ago ended with no fatalities but 12 injured. None of them had physical injuries but mental pain because of the side effects caused by the mimics and doppelgangers, as they had brainwashed them. M-Su, who was healed by Reen after being a victim of the doppelganger, was hospitalized in the Seoul-Goru area, and SEI Wu is currently on his way to visit him with Inwook. Inwook says that it's a relief that Minsu wasn't badly hurt and he'll be discharged in a few days. He wonders what would have happened if the doppelganger had succeeded. SEI Wu says that there wouldn't have been any injuries if he had arrived a day late. Inwook asks him what he means by that, and SEI Wu says they would have all gone missing or been dead. It seems that demonic gates aren't common here. Inwook asks what he means by demonic gates, and SEI Wu explains that it's a demonic summoning gate that's a higher rank than that of an abyss gate. There's a reason that the doppelgangers were prideful skirmishers. When I was in Eden, a doppelganger offered a rural village as a sacrifice and summoned a giant demonic gate. The Pride Corps invaded Eden through that demonic gate. The doppelganger that appeared here in Korea was probably planning on using the people in the dungeon as sacrifices to summon a high-level demon. The fact that they solved things before that happened is lucky compared to how it could have been. But there's one part that gets him a bit confused, and that is why a demonic gate appeared in front of him as he had just returned from Eden. He wonders if it's purely a coincidence or if it's related to the causality that Riemann mentioned before. And to think that something like this could suddenly occur, he needs to hurry up in gathering the believers. Inwook's plan of him hiding his powers as the main character got cancelled, but he wouldn't mind trying it again as it'll have a strong impact. Inwook then asks how he ended up doing that to M-Su and the rest, but SEI Wu asks what he means. Inwook shows him his text, as M-Su says, "The Pope himself is proof that the goddess loves the world, and they should both work hard to serve the Pope." Wook questions whether he brainwashed or gaslit him that severely, pointing out that just because he subs doesn't grant permission to use him like that. So simply inquires what kind of demon he's being perceived as. Inwook responds with a playful expression, declaring himself a cult leader, which prompts So to bark back at him in their characteristic brotherly banter that stands as top-tier interaction. Seiyu remarks that he hadn't anticipated Minu would succumb to his beliefs so quickly. Inwook suggests the possibility that Minu might have fallen for him instead, earning a head smack from Seiyu, who clarifies that while Riemann may be the goddess of mercy, he certainly isn't. So sighs in understanding, recognizing that the awestruck expression MSU wore upon awakening mirrors the universal reaction people have when first beholding Riemann, one of pure shock. He recalls his own identical reaction, overwhelmed by her breathtaking beauty that threatens to make one faint, her radiating holy energy leaving no doubt about her divine status. Having personally received her treatment, MSU directly experienced her power, making So wonder how anyone could possibly deny her presence after witnessing such holy miracles firsthand. Inwook admits he expected MSU to yield easily, but finds the goddess's combination of beauty and kindness particularly intriguing, expressing enthusiasm about potentially featuring her on their channel. Siwo counters that while her beauty is undeniable, he questions Inwook's assumption of her kindness, reminding him of her essentially kidnapping him. Inwook maintains that she's taking responsibility regardless and voices his own desire to meet her someday. The scene shifts as Inwook announces MSU's new video upload, showing the notification popping up while hoping they'll receive similar alerts for their channel. The video features MSU in a hospital bed, apologizing as he prepares to recount events from 2 days prior and express gratitude toward his rescuer and nearly doomed film crew. Before the video plays, the setting transitions to Guru University Hospital where Inwook enters calling for Minu. MSU inquires about Minu's health upon hearing he was sick, to which Inwook claims he's fine while Seiyu points out his hypocrisy in worrying about others while injured himself, admiring both his commendable personality and good looks that undoubtedly contribute to his massive subscriber count. MSU addresses So as His Holiness, prompting Seiyu to question where he learned such terminology. MSU casually mentions Wikipedia as his source, making Inwook announce his departure while Seiyu insists on being called by name or at most with a respectful Mr. prefix. MSU persists with the honorific Pope, confident it won't be forbidden, to which So reluctantly concedes. Later, Seiyu questions MSU's motivation for uploading the video. MSU explains he felt obligated, creating a 2-minute clip glorifying Seiyu and Ran without naming them directly, instead referring to his savior and the goddess who healed him, filling the video with effusive praise. While effective, Seiyu finds it lacking the dramatic flair he envisioned for introducing the order publicly. MSU offers to show the video comments, revealing audience skepticism about its supposedly dramatic concept, surprising Seiyu with their disbelief in its sincerity. MSU clarifies his complete seriousness about promoting the Reman Order, expressing disdain for other cults while vowing to dedicate his entire fortune to spreading Rant's name if necessary. Seiyu struggles to comprehend such devotion, uncertain whether it stems from madness or Rant's influence. Suddenly, a status window appears announcing Minu as the third believer to confess faith, granting Seiyu the Fanatic Believer achievement worth 20 divine points and unlocking the Inquisitor special job in the DLC page. Seiyu finds the concept of a modern Korean Inquisitor oddly outdated. The job description promises 10% ability boosts against Order enemies, scaling with faith levels, exclusively available to Order affiliates. Though Seiyu laments his inability to purchase it due to financial constraints, MSU reassures him that his YouTuber experience anticipated this reaction, confident that miracle witnesses won't doubt anyway. MSU mentions a prepared video with Cian, explaining the 4 believers count and proposing an idea he whispers privately to So, who then assures Minu's suitability for an important role that would please Reman. The narrative abruptly shifts to an altar scene where devotees receive the Great One's will, one being appointed as a warrior pledging complete dedication to their grand plan against a massive demon, all in the Order's name. The final transition takes them to an amusement park where Seiyu asks his little sister if she enjoyed the play, particularly the boat ride that reminded her of their childhood visits. When his phone rings unexpectedly on a weekend, she urges him to answer, revealing Dongguk on the line saying he's coming to the neighborhood with something important to discuss. It then jumps to the Ability Management Bureau. Dongguk says that he made sure that Cyan got home safely and he's sorry for the unexpected visit. Seiyu says it's fine. It was thanks to the free pass that he got from him that he was able to spend time with her at the amusement park. Dongguk says he wanted to thank him for what he did in the Abyss Dungeon, and there were just so many things going on with the ability department that they were on red alert. Seiyu asks if that's why he wants to talk to him, and Dongguk says yes. Since we don't have the luxury of time, I want to go straight to the chase. He pulls up a video. This is a video that went viral on MeTube, and it's the thing that we saw before, which I thought was a play. What do you think about it? Seiyu wonders, then says, it's a clear example of a cult. Dongguk sighs. I knew it. Is that really what you think? It would probably be better to call them an industry colleague. Dongguk laughs. I love your honesty. Seiyu then tells him that he was just joking. Poor Dongguk. Seiyu asks, what's the point of showing me this? Is it to stop me from making one of these crazy cults myself? Is that the goal? Dongguk starts to panic. That's not my intention. The government and country aren't one of those entities that oppress religion. However, that changes when we're talking about the White Brilliance Order. Seiyu asks, what's that? Dongguk tells him, that's the organization I showed in the video. They are the main culprit of all the incidents that the ability department had to take care of. He then shows him a map. The red indicates the sudden appearances of outbreak gates. I'm sure you're already aware of what purple signifies. Those are the Abyss dungeons like the one you experienced. Outbreak gates and dungeons are not common occurrences within South Korea. They're actually considered pretty rare, as they usually just appear without explanation on their type or difficulty. However, the phenomena has occurred 4 times within the last 2 days. In most cases, the regional guilds would help out by activating reserve troops that they could cooperate with if needed. However, the White Brilliance Order takes care of them before we even get the chance. That has happened for all of these gates, excluding the one that you took care of. Seiyu asks, how is this possible? Dongguk explains, the White Brilliance Order is a new religious sect created within the last 6 months. They claim that they're able to take care of the gates before us because their god has given them the power of foresight. Due to their extremely guarded nature, the Department of Ability Management has been unable to learn more about them. However, they have grown incredibly strong, to the point where they can no longer be ignored. We get some ominous foreshadowing of Lucifer behind one of the Order members. Seiyu is just surprised that they grew to this size in 6 months and says, there's something off about their foresight claim. He understands why Dongguk is here for him. You want me to take care of the White Brilliance Order. Dongguk clears his throat. Not to get rid of them, but rather, we want your cooperation. It seems that they have influence in the political and economic realm, so it has been difficult for the ability department to investigate them. We already have plenty on our plates with the outbreak gates and dungeons. It is crucial for us to obtain some help from someone like you. Seiwa observes that since the White Brilliance Order is utilizing media, they will likely attempt to encroach on his territory as well. However, with the government supporting him, he vows to make them regret surfacing. He informs Dongguk of his willingness to cooperate regarding the order, suspecting a connection between the Abyss Dungeon and the White Brilliance Order that he intends to investigate personally. Dong-shik expresses surprise at his easy agreement, promising full support for his efforts. Though they haven't fully discerned all his capabilities, Dong-shik emphasizes that his appearance in South Korea has reignited their hopes for the future, bowing his head in gratitude. Se-woo dismisses the need for thanks, perplexed by Dong-shik's evident joy and unable to relate, wondering what transpired in South Korea during his 5-year absence. The scene shifts to Se-woo's apartment where one of MSU's videos plays, discussing a mysterious hidden player who effortlessly tore apart wyverns without visible incantations or skill delays. MSU speculates the flames on the player's hands are sacred fire, exceptionally effective against ordinary monsters and undead alike. Promising to reveal this enigmatic figure in an upcoming video, MSU asks viewers to await the broadcast date announcement on their channel. Se-woo scrolls through polarized comments, some accusing MSU of scamming while others defend him. A status window materializes around Se-woo, acknowledging follower Minu's efforts in generating public interest and awarding 10 divine points. Se-woo recognizes this as the perfect opportunity to execute his straightforward plan. After drawing attention to the hidden player through Minso, he'll have the Department of Ability Management hold a press conference about an unmeasurable irregular awakened. This strategy aims to thrust the Reman Order into the spotlight, leveraging MSU's generated traffic to expand their follower base. Inwook remarks this approach seems far simpler than typical protagonist strategies of power concealment, while Se-woo responds with sinister laughter. Inwook questions the plan's viability, criticizing its lack of thoroughness or coolness, when their phones suddenly erupt with urgent alerts. A medium-scale outbreak gate has materialized in Guro near the university hospital, requiring immediate evacuation of all non-C rank personnel due to confirmed undead monsters. Inwook springs into action, rousing Cyan for evacuation as Se-woo realizes MSU's hospital location makes this clearly Elidis work, too blatant to be coincidence. Inwook reassures his sister while telling Se-woo to proceed ahead, assuming he'll help as he did in Eden's neighboring countries. Se-woo clarifies he never stated his intentions, but when the doorbell rings, Ability Department personnel arrive to escort his family to safety while requesting Se-woo accompany them. Reluctant to go, believing his presence might worsen the situation due to causality, Se-woo nevertheless enters the car where officials brief him. Undead monsters dominate the outbreak, the gate core remains undiscovered, and access is restricted to C-rank hunters. They note this marks the first urban outbreak gate since the Sand tragedy 3 years prior. Approaching the ominous red circle hovering in the sky, Se-woo witnesses widespread panic before being escorted to the gate perimeter. A warning system detects ominous energy as he advances past fearful civilians to where assembled hunters display battle-ready composure, starkly contrasting the surrounding terror. Dongguk explains these are guild-associated players operating under standard sector assignment protocols, acknowledging Se-woo might find their procedures unfamiliar. The operation couldn't commence, especially in such urgent circumstances. Se-woo inquired about sector assignments. Dongguk explained that while ordinary people saw chaos gates as mere catastrophes, for players they represented essential opportunities. The guild representative should have been dividing the subjugation area into designated sectors by now. Se-woo observed how the world grew increasingly fascinating with time, though the current situation filled him with disgust. He reminded Dongguk of their previous conversation regarding support for his decisions if he assisted with the White Brilliance Order matter. When Dongguk confirmed remembering, Se-woo declared his intention to handle the gate alone, while others focused on survivor rescue operations, taking full responsibility for all combat-related matters. Despite Dongguk's attempts to dissuade him, Se-woo simply tapped his shoulder and initiated his transformation into Pope mode. A radiant holy energy enveloped his form, astonishing all witnesses. With a powerful stomp, he released a surge of purple aura that arced skyward, creating an aurora-like phenomenon that immediately calmed the panicked civilians. This was the active skill sanctification in effect, its influence wrapping around the Chaos Gate and surrounding areas. While active, it weakened all demons and undead within range, while instantly annihilating any entities inferior to Se-woo's power. Simultaneously, a system notification appeared, warning that the governance of dimension causality was observing him, accompanied by the appearance of an ominous dimensional vortex overhead. Dropping to one knee, Se-woo invoked Reen's name, calling for divine punishment against those threatening the land's peace. He pledged his entire being to this holy purpose. Meanwhile, within the hospital, terrified screams echoed as undead forces breached the building. MSU stood armed with a sword amidst fleeing civilians. Without hesitation, he swung his blade, cleanly bisecting and approaching undead. When questioned about the dungeon boss's location, a companion reported their scout hadn't returned. Recognizing their precarious situation, MSU insisted they couldn't afford to wait. They needed to locate and eliminate the boss immediately before the gate's escalating difficulty rendered them powerless. The other man despairs, asking how much longer they must endure this. He bitterly remarks that the guilds are probably fighting over territory while the Department of Ability Management proves incompetent, leaving them helpless against the undead. MSU urges them to hold on a little longer, assuring them that help will come. When pressed, he cryptically replies that he knows someone. As they reach the door and fling it open, one of the men shouts for them to head to the rooftop immediately. Minso sprints ahead and throws the door open, only for all three to freeze in horror at the sight of a horde of undead waiting for them. But something else looms among them, and MSU's blood runs cold as a status window materializes before him. A mysterious terror approaches. Lich Laz, Apostle of Pride, has appeared. The core of the Chaos Gate has been identified, a lich. MSU's voice trembles as he explains that a lich is the highest-ranked undead, an entity whose mere existence spreads terror. As an A-rank hunter, he knows he's powerless against it. The others break down, sobbing that it's over, and even Minu collapses, his sword clattering to the ground. Kneeling, he begs for a miracle, for Riemann to take pity on them all. Then, a blinding light erupts from the sky, followed by a thunderous crash as something slams into the rooftop. So's voice cuts through the chaos. "You did great, MSU. Leave the rest to me." Stunned, MSU and the others gape as So strides forward, praising MSU's prayer for guiding him here at the perfect moment. A system window flashes. Earth's causality congruence exam is in progress. The Chaos Gate, formed by unknown forces, disrupts causality. Balance must be restored. Proceed without restriction. The Lich sneers, mocking So's borrowed power as insufficient. "This land will soon be a sacrifice to the great pride," it intones. "No light shall pierce this darkness." So scoffs. "What are you yapping about?" Another window appears. Sacred Dawn aggression synchronized across Earth and EG. Now an active ability. All demonic energy within radius will be purged. He raises his hand, and a radiant white light engulfs the rooftop. The undead disintegrate instantly. The Lich recoils, demanding, "Who are you? How can you wield such power? How can a god's slave erase my army so easily?" But the Lich isn't finished. The air curdles as its power spreads, the very ground rotting into a necropolis. The system blares crimson warnings. "Danger, region cursed by Lich. Causality destroyed." So's eyes widen. An advanced dark spell, one that curses everything and creates a realm for the dead. And it's happening right in the heart of Seoul. The Lich's laughter echoes. "Your powerless god cannot save you now. This city will be mine." Sei Wu's voice turned deadly calm as he confronted the Lich. "Do you want to die for calling my god powerless?" He had initially planned to spare the creature out of curiosity about its words, but now deemed that decision unworthy. Raising his hand, he summoned a devastating power. The Lich scoffed, mocking the apparent weakness of Sei Wu's divine patron. Its taunts were cut short as Sei Wu launched himself airborne, delivering a crushing punch that slammed the undead being into the ground with near-purifying force. This wasn't my destined end," the Lich screamed as its form began disintegrating. "Fate is for the living, not corpses." Sei Wu countered coldly. Realization dawned on the Lich. This was the same force that had destroyed the doppelganger and mimics. "How dare you interfere with the Great One's designs?" it shrieked. Sei Wu silenced it with a brutal stomp, crushing the undead body repeatedly. Even in its final moments, the Lich laughed maniacally. "My curse will fester in this land. This will become a city of the dead regardless." As its soul began ascending, Sei Wu obliterated it mid-speech, having endured enough of its prattling. A system notification confirmed the Chaos Gate's core destruction and completion of all clearance conditions. Yet Sei Wu seethed. The Lich's final words held truth. A necropolis corruption permanently tainted the land, dooming it to eternal undeath. The breach would become a hellish undead spawning ground unless addressed. There existed a solution, but one Sei Wu found unbearably cringeworthy. Glancing skyward, he muttered about the white brilliance order watching before resigning himself. "They wanted a show? They'll get one." The system announced the activation of Wings of Purification. Above, the dimensional vortex sealed shut as causality turned a blind eye to his unleashed power. 8 radiant wings burst from Sei Wu's back as he ascended, holy feathers raining down on the awestruck crowd below. Even hardened veterans like Minsu and Donggik stood speechless before the overwhelming divine presence. Donggik's skepticism visibly crumbled as the display continued. SEIWu's follower count exploded 13 to 167, then skyrocketing to 1,807 as witnesses embraced his divinity. The hospital grounds transformed into a scene of celestial wonder with the winged figure hovering above. The scene shifted abruptly to a government conference. Donggik, now composed in his official capacity as Ability Management Department head, delivered his briefing. At 2,100 hours, our systems predicted a gate manifestation at Guro University. Department teams secured the perimeter and evacuated civilians. SEIWu, arriving subsequently, eliminated the Lich Core and resolved the disaster. He continued with the official statement, SEIWu returned to Earth through the Han River Park C-42 gate incident. He is indeed the individual featured in the viral hidden player social media footage. Since Seiyu's abilities have not been measured by a magic energy measuring device, it is impossible to determine the full extent of his strength. However, after witnessing his power at the riverbank and the hospital, even the other awakened soldiers have concluded that he must be a returner of at least disaster rank. They reason that if he is both a returner and disaster rank, then he qualifies as an irregular, meaning an irregular has appeared in Korea. Realizing the urgency, they decide to contact the director immediately, officially declaring that they are now in possession of an irregular returner. Siwo smiles at the camera and introduces himself as the leader of the Reman Order.